Welcome to A12 Compliance Corner, where we bring you practical tips, best practices, and real-world stories regarding compliance. My name is OG. With me is Akber Abbas,
Hey,
President of A12 Mortgage Corporation. Welcome.
thank you. Happy to be here.
Great to have you here. In the news recently, RECO, the Real Estate Council of Ontario, ordered the closure of iPro Realty Limited due to a shortfall in the trust accounts.
Okay.
Around $8 million, a significant shortfall.
hmm
In the light of this, what ripple effect will this have on the mortgage industry?
And so I think first and foremost, this is never good for anybody who's in the real estate or mortgage space. Whenever we are in a position where we're losing consumer confidence, it's not a good thing. I know here at A12, we work really, really hard to make sure that not only are we following the minimum benchmarks of what FSRA and the other regulators are looking for, we're looking to go above and beyond. That's just a basic guidance. The ripple effect, I think, is that, if folks lose confidence in interest rates, process, governance, they don't want to invest. They don't want to buy new real estate. They don't want to refinance. They don't want to sell. And so I think overall, it's really, really important that all of us in the ecosystem that support each other, whether it's real estate agents, whether it's mortgage appraisers, the lawyers and solicitors who are involved as well, everyone needs to work with the highest level of integrity. I will tell you time and time again, especially when we're meeting with large institutions and we look at other banks who are coming back to the brokerage network, they're looking to team up and partner with agents, brokers, and network partners who bring governance to the top. And I think that's something that obviously you hold forefront of everything you're working on here at A12. It's really important. I think confidence is really important. And I think it's important that the regulator also sees that we're all proactively participating. Even doing a session like this to get the word out, I think is super important for us.
Yes, great. I totally agree with you. And how do you think brokerages, agents, brokers should maintain client funds and the trust account? First off, I would like you to briefly talk about what a trust account is for the benefit of consumers who may not understand what a trust account is and the obligations of the agent brokerages with relation to the trust account and client funds in possessions of the brokerage and agents.
Yeah, it's a great question, right? And so I can speak to, I know we're talking specifically about mortgages. I can speak to how we do it here at A12 within our business. I think it's really important that you have good governance from the top. And for us, it starts right at the board level, at the executive level. We're always looking at what are best practices in the industry. So that starts for us with having our own set of governance policies, right from our cybersecurity and our processes internally. First and foremost is documenting and meeting regularly and discussing as we do in our corporate compliance and GRC teams. Number one, having an awareness and doing it. Number two is to make sure that you're keeping it relevant to what's happening in the landscape. So because of this iPro piece, we went back and started revisiting some of our policies and how we do things just to make sure that we're checking all the boxes. And then you also want to be prepared because new legislation is always coming up. So FINTRAC, when FINTRAC introduced those new legislations, it wasn't a big ripple within our environment because we were already halfway there. So we just started adding new technology to fast track some of the processes. Moving forward, we are going to look at things a lot more granular down to every transaction and all players involved in that transaction. So compliance starts at the top. You set the tone right at the top that it's something that management is interested in and that they want to foster through the organization, which we obviously do within our organization. Number two is to make sure that we are building that culture of compliance right through every level of the organization. Everything from securing your email passwords, checking which documents are being shared, making sure that we're bringing in good pieces of business and that we know who we're doing business with. I think iPro could have avoided this, and I don't know all the stories or the players or how they were managing, but for you to have an investigation reach this level, you must have received multiple steps or warnings to get there. Why were those messages ignored? Why were those processes not being followed? Where did it break? Ultimately, it's going to come down to somebody not caring, I believe. Somebody probably decided to take their focus off of it. They didn't want to invest in it. Maybe they didn't want to put the resources behind it. That's not our position on it. We're thinking about taking it to the next level. The last point I'll kind of mention here, and just when we talk about trust funds specifically and how we do things differently, the way we see it is this, or the way I see it there. Let's say that you left something here, your phone, your wallet, and so on. It's still, you're the owner of that. It's just in my possession. I have to hold it with great care. whether it's lending a car to a friend or whether it's trust funds, you always want to know and keep in mind that this is someone else's asset that you've been entrusted with.
Yeah.
We talked about the ripple effect, but the reality is once that confidence is lost, then you're forever scarred whether you're going to do something. On top of that, there's probably monetary damages that people actually lost money or transactions are going to be delayed or not closed. That's not good for anybody, not for the consumers, not for the association or the industry. So from my perspective, we hold in very high regard that you've given us this trust, even as something as simple as taking your mortgage application, having it within our system, the importance of that personal information within our networks. As you know, we've invested heavily in a business information security officer. We have a full-time security team here. We have a security operations team. We are putting guardrails at every level, not just for nefarious actors, but internally to make sure quality assurance and fraud is number one. And I think that's just how we have to look at this moving into this age and this world. This is very disappointing news to me overall, what happened here, but I think it definitely could have been avoided.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, especially when you said that clearly somebody wasn't paying attention. Because $8 million, that didn't happen overnight. That definitely must have happened over a period of time. So clearly somebody wasn't paying attention or just didn't care. And yes, that's really sad. And also, yes, you did mention that iPro, the news says they have like 2,400 agents
Yeah.
that they are currently, RECO is currently working with those agents to move them to other brokerages.
Yeah.
But the clients, like you said, there are delays that are going to happen. Like these affects the clients as well.
Yeah.
How this affects the client is not being talked about as much as how it affects the agents.
Yeah.
But I think we owe a duty more to the clients, the consumers who have trust in this industry.
Yeah.
So my next question to you will be, when news like this, when stories like this hit the news, of course, it affects clients, consumers' trust in the industry. From the brokerage perspective, from the mortgage space, how do you think when stories like this hit the news, how can agents best support consumers? How can they build their confidence? How can they help them maintain the trust for the industry so that they are not wary of doing business with?
Yeah, it's a very good point. Something that we take with high importance here is helping mortgage agents on their journey. And FSRA and our association, MPC, the Mortgage Professionals Canada, have created a lot of learning, education, and levels. So as you know now, there's agent level 1, agent level 2, and brokers, and then eventually you can move to principal broker. I would encourage in the industry, if you are a level 1, to move to level 2. If you're level 2, move to a level 3. More education doesn't hurt. And it also helps to build. In our brokerage, we are trying to elevate education and bring every agent to that broker level. So number one is those knowledge and certification checks. That's most important. It builds more confidence. Just the same way if you were to go to see a doctor of any sort, you'd want them to be knowing of the most relevant technologies and the most relevant methods to service whatever your issue was. I think it's the same thing here. Number two is making this more of a full-time effort and making sure that you're keeping in the news about whatever's happening in your space so that you're aware as you're working on files, what's the best way and how we should move it forward. It's really important for me that as we build a culture of compliance, that we're also fostering a culture of learning and employee investment, or just diversifying the knowledge that we are all consuming so that we can make sure we know what's happening next. That's really important because if you know what's happening in the industry, like AI is coming in, you can know safely how to use it. You don't want to put customer information into ChatGPT and it floats around to the wrong places and so on. So these are all areas that if you know about what's happening in your industry, you're focused on delivering good solutions. You were talking about how do we impact the end consumers and those families? Well, that is FSRA's number one goal all the time, is suitability and making sure that, we aren't having consumer issues. So I think if we are maintaining ourselves in a very professional and a high level way, and we are also making sure that we have the most amount of compliance standards that we can manage, we leverage corporate as we are here to deliver, that will start building that moat around the client's confidence. The second piece is also the consumers need to bring that level of professionalism to the table as well, which they do, and making sure that they're sharing information securely through our portals, making sure that they're also being good stewards of information back and forth. I think that will definitely help as well. It'll create overall an environment of a secure transaction as we try to build this industry into a more secure place. It is not without volume. Like, we are still an industry that produces over $135 billion of mortgages in Ontario every single year or more. Like, I think a few years ago when the interest rates were lower, we were close to 170 billion. That's a lot of dollars.
It is.
It's a lot of transactions going through. So I think it takes a part of everyone's involvement to make sure it gets done correctly.
I totally agree. One other question that crossed my mind with regards to client funds is the regulators, both on the mortgage side, real estate. I know it's mandatory for every funds to pass through the brokerage, not through agents and brokers.
Sure.
Is there any impact on this when agents and brokers collect funds directly from clients without passing it through the brokerage? And in an incident like this, the consumer is assuming that they are actually making payments to the brokerage, not realizing that that payment is not going to the brokerage, but to the client, to the agents and the brokers.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think moving forward for us, we have at A12, we have the Infinite platform, which is more than just a CRM. It is really a process management platform right from the beginning, all the way from the lead, our file coming in, the submission, all the way to the financing. The reason it's important is that you want your compliance teams at your partner office or your corporate office to be able to manage the flow of funds. We and FSRA and others have kind of mandated that funds should flow through corporate because there's a higher level of integrity and management through those accounts. There's accountability. Those financials are audited. There's infrastructure if somebody's off or sick or whatnot. So it's really important that agents in the industry as well see that as not to circumvent or try to do something on the side. It always creates challenges. We've had similar situations in the past where others have tried to be more efficient or didn't know it was a big deal. I think if there's ever any doubt, you should work with your principal broker or your compliance team to figure out and just ask the question, should this be going through corporate funds? Should this be something I could take on? Generally, the rule is it should always flow through. Yeah. At the same token, this story obviously doesn't help because those folks were following the process. One way for that accountability is, as we do here at A12, we have multiple levels of checks. Like even for our trust level balance, every month I'm signing off on that. At the same token, our controller signing off on the same document. So 2 people to sign. And then we have a third process where somebody makes sure it was done. And then at the end of the year, we have our auditors who are checking that they were done, and not that they were done all at the end of the year. This is another mistake I find, or maybe it's a best practice that I feel people should be more managing of it, is that you should reconcile within the 30 days of the month being done, not sitting here in December doing all the months previously. And I think because of that, we would have had, maybe this issue could have been found earlier, like $8 million later, how did we get here? I think it's really important that it goes back to the culture of compliance and brokerages changing their mindset that they're going to do one of two things. Either you invest in the infrastructure and you set it up correctly. You have the accounting, corporate finance team, you have compliance, you have regulatory authorities in there. You are making that your core focus, that governance, risk, and compliance is important. Or join a network partner who's doing it and that has the levels of governance and somebody who is going to take care of it for you. And then you can focus on the parts of the business that you want to, and then they can take care of that piece. Like, you have to make a choice. Being in the business and not actually focusing on it, you're not doing a service to anyone.
Interesting. I totally agree. That's why at A12, we have a huge compliance culture. We have a very robust system all the way from the top down. It's a culture. It's not just paper. We actually practice compliance. Thank you very much, Akber. Final, before I let you go, what practical tips do you have to give to brokerages, agent brokers that actually strive to be compliant in a situation like this?
So I'm going to use this opportunity to just switch a question to you for a moment, because my answer is, my practical tip is develop that within your environment. And so we have our first time kind of speaking on the podcast. I'm going to put you on the hot seat a little bit here.
Okay.
But this journey started off between us a couple years ago, maybe 3 now.
It did, yes, 3 years.
And so I remember sitting down with our at that point, our HRO, and saying, this is a very multifaceted position, which I learned over 7 years of being the principal broker here at A12. And at that point, when I first joined, and we started the brokerage, the requirements were not as robust as they are now. And as the industry evolved and requirements came in and so on, it became more complicated, dynamic. You have areas of not only regulatory compliance, but you have fraud, you have quality assurance in there. And then now with all of what's happening with FINTRAC and AML and KYC, you need to find folks within your environment who enjoy and are dedicated in this type of business. So I was happy when we met. So maybe tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you find A12, and why did you choose to join us?
Okay, very interesting. So that's something I actually enjoy talking about. So I joined A12 as a quality assurance and compliance.
I think it was an analyst.
Yeah, analyst. Yeah, so I was looking
Even back then, we had visions.
Yes,
of building
2022 April. I that's how I joined, and initially I wasn't sure. I'm like, okay, is this a good fit? Am I going to stay here long term? But down the line, the culture was an amazing fit. Like, I like the fact, because my background is in law. So that's my.
Which is very humble, but tell us a little bit about.
Okay, yeah. So my background is in law. I'm a internationally trained lawyer. I was called to the bar like 18 years ago from my home country. And I also was a magistrate court judge in my home country for about 8 years. So I actually enjoy compliance because it's actually inbuilt.
Yeah.
So when I joined, and then I noticed like at A12, it was a big deal. Compliance, everything was, they wanted to do everything by the books. I'm like, okay, I think this is going to work.
A refreshing surprise.
Yes, this actually fits into what I believe in. The culture was a perfect fit. And then a year or so down the line, we had the conversation where you said, I think you're going to pay a proper fit for the principal broker role. So you're going to understudy me, and here we are.
There you are. Yeah, almost 2 years later, you went through, got licensed as an agent, licensed as agent level 2, then broker. And then now you're also serving on FSRA's committee, which I did for 4 years.
Yes, I am.
Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yes, that's one very amazing and enlightening experience. I enjoy the fact that when we go for the stakeholders meeting, we have conversations, and FSRA is always open and wanting to listen. It gives me like a lot of in-depth into what's expected, what the regulators expect us to do, what they expect from us, which in turn, it helps us build a robust compliance infrastructure within the brokerage, because we have an idea of what is required. It's a principle-based system, yes, but we know how to structure our compliance to align with the regulations. And then I guess it does help the fact that I am a lawyer, so I understand how the regulation works. I understand how to interpret it. So it's really been it's been amazing being on that stakeholder committee.
Yeah, and I did the same 2 years with the technical committee and then 2 years with the stakeholder committee. And I think I love the fact that the regulator opens the door for this public-private partnership.
Yeah.
They want to hear our opinions, and it really is a true partnership there. And so to answer your question, as our organization grows, we are looking to develop talent within and from outside, and always reevaluating who has the core strengths. And when you joined early on and you were looking, we had the conversation about, should you go into private practice and so on. And I said, that's always available to you. Give us a couple of years. It takes 2 seasons minimum of going through insurance renewals and compliance and all of that to learn this business. It's paid off. And, it's also enabled, in the spirit of compliance, it's enabled all of us to take on a little bit more. At that point, not only was I doing the principal broker role, I was also sitting on our board. It's a lot to manage governance. That with you stepping into this role, it enabled me to then go and do the director's education program through the ICD, which is like a board governance level 1 program through Rotman and the ICD. And so that was really rewarding for me as well, because you have to have an interest in this side. Amongst many interests that I have, this is one area that integrity and consumer protection is something that's high on my list. And so I created that balance for us. So for anyone else, to answer your original question, that's looking to, if they have a small brokerage or a large brokerage or real estate side, mortgage side, appraiser, anybody who supports our ecosystem, I would encourage you to give this a little bit more interest and thought. And if this is not an area that you're interested in, reach out with us. We're always happy to share best practices, collaborate. And I think that might be an area where we expand some of this advocacy as well, is just creating a community where all of us can get together, because sometimes I feel like the principal brokers are on an island of their own. and all that burden and pressure, the principles of the organization are like, just take care of it. It's compliance, not a big deal. And I think if you bring that to the forefront and lead with GRC, you'll have a much more resilient workforce to the times, and quality and brand always will rise, right? I think that's super important. So I'm excited we got to connect and talk today.
Thank you very much. As we wrap up, one thing you said, which is one culture I actually enjoy within the 812 ecosystem, is when you mentioned that the room for growth.
Sure.
For the a little over 3 years I've been here, not just me growing professionally, within the organization, I've actually seen people grow. The opportunity that's made available, the resources to actually allow people explore and grow within the organization, amazing.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, welcome to have you. Thank you for this chat, and look forward to version 2.
Sure. Thank you.